Hello, it's Adam Morrison. When it comes to top-tier contracting, my go-to choice is McGilvery Environmental. I know a thing or two about excellence, and that's exactly what you'll find with Kip McGilvery and his team. They're not just any contractor, they're the best in Spokane and North Idaho. From start to finish, they ensure your project is completed with the highest quality results. With years of experience and expertise, they handle it all. New construction, meticulous repairs, asphalt paving for residential and commercial properties, excavation, and even environmental remediation. So why wait? Reach out to Kip McGilvery Environmental today by calling 208-556-6384 for your free estimate. Don't forget to mention my name, Adam Morrison, and experience the difference McGilvery Environmental brings to the table. Again, that's 208-556-6384, McGilvery Environmental, my number one choice for all my contracting needs. We're very excited to announce a new partner to the Perimeter Podcast, M4 CPA. M4 CPA is a family-owned accounting firm passionate about helping businesses and their owners create a secure future for their families. They pride themselves on the quality of their work and put their clients first, ensuring they get the attention and care they deserve. Their mission is to provide exceptional accounting services to help you achieve your financial goals. M4 CPA is all about building long-term relationships based on trust, integrity, and transparency. With a team of experienced professionals, they offer personalized solutions to meet your needs. If you're a Perimeter listener, here's an exclusive offer for you. Mention the Perimeter Podcast when you reach out to M4 CPA and get a free business consultation to assess your financial strategies. So, if you're looking for an accounting firm that truly cares about your business, trust M4 CPA. They're in your corner every step of the way. M4 CPA, accounting you can trust with a personal touch. Learn more at m4cpa.com.
The podcast intro song is Get Up by Jinx Universe. Listen to his music on Spotify and follow him on social media at I am Jinx Universe.
Yeah. Man, forget this job, dog. Yeah. Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear first.
Welcome to the Perimeter, Season 4, Episode 24, presented by McGilvery Environmental, Idaho Central Credit Union, and M4 CPA NCAA Tournament Edition. Feels good saying that.
Yeah.
There was a slight worry, middle of the season, but our guys took care of business. We talked about it last episode. Took care of business in Vegas and did the right thing. So everybody's waiting for Selection Sunday. It finally came, and we get an 8 seed. Initial reaction, we were 8 in the net, 9 in the Ken Palm. I think 2 games above 500 in Quad 1, Quad 2. Mm-hmm. My initial thoughts were we were eventually going to move into a 7-6 seed. But 8-9 3 weeks ago, we were like, oh, we're in. So
right, yeah.
I don't know. I have mixed emotions about it. Honestly, I think it's somewhat fair. I don't think it's like a total screw job, but also the 8-9 is not a fun one because if you win your first round game, most likely, obviously there's been 2 16-1 upsets. You're playing a really good basketball team in the second round. Now, the counter to that is, well, if you want to have a deep run, you're obviously going to have to beat good teams, but you'd like your first, weekend or to get out of the first weekend to be easier than others, right? That's
absolutely, yeah.
That's just how it works. So I was a little bit surprised in the sense that I thought our metrics were good enough, and then having 4 Quad 1, Quad 2s, San Francisco, Santa Clara, San Francisco again, and then St. Mary's wins in a row.
Yeah.
Down the stretch might have moved off that 8-9 line. But, like we said, 26 straight appearances. We're back in the NCAA tournament, 25 and 9 or whatever, 25 and 8. Mm-hmm. Good season. Obviously, we have the 9 straight Sweet 16 appearances on the line, so that's going to be something obviously to play for. It's not just that, but I'm a little bit perplexed on going into next season how we going to look at the net then, right, in the Ken Palm and all that stuff. But I think being in Wichita, it's a fair travel deal. We could have been in Rhode Island and all those deals and on the East Coast. So we got the Midwest region. I think the third overall number 1 seed, right? Was Houston the third overall? I think they were the third number 1 seed. So in that, if you were looking at that regards, obviously we didn't get the number 1. I thought Duke was going to be the number 1 overall seed, to be honest. I thought Auburn losing 3 out of their last 4, even though it's a great conference. SEC gets 14 teams, just crazy, and I'll talk about that in a second with Georgia. I thought Duke was going to move in, but maybe the Cooper Flag injury moved them off that line, maybe. But anyway, I'm excited for it. I heard Wichita is a great town. Like I said, it's not a terrible travel deal. I think we'll probably have a straight shot there because the NCAA does a charter, which is nice. So that part is cool. I know that's ancillary, but for my own selfishness, it's nice to just be able to hop on a plane and head straight to the game. I think there was excitement when I went to the selection show yesterday, but it wasn't overall shock either. You know what I mean? And it's, obviously we're used to this type of deal. But it was a little bit like, you're looking at some of these other teams that get on the 6 line, the 7 line. You're like, well, what's their net? What is net and all those things matter? So that's something that we're going to have to consider if we put it in our memory bank and we don't forget it during the summer for next season. Knock on wood that we're in a similar situation where playing good basketball and we're looking at our net and we're like, well, how much? Because that's what we've relied on all season where we were playing great. We were like, hey, man, our metrics, we were trying to tell everybody on the episodes, like, hey, we're like 14 right now. Like, we're fine. And now it's like, we're 8 and we got an 8 seed. And you're like, well, is it really worth that?
To put in perspective, though, the highest seed not to make it this year is 39, and the Ken Palm was Ohio State, and their record was 17-15. I don't know how they did in the Big Ten tournament, but
17-15 is not good enough.
Yeah, right.
But Boise State was the 44 or something I saw.
Yeah,
and they didn't make it.
They didn't make it either.
That one sucks because it's there's some local connections. Obviously, I've talked about playing for Leon Rice, great dude. Awesome coach, and then Tyson Dagenhart from Mount Spokane. Yeah, great family. He became the all-time leading scorer. So congrats to him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
From Mount Spokane High School. So a local connection. His mom was my algebra teacher. Dad's a good dude. I've known Tyson.
Coached me in UConn. Coached me in cross country.
Yeah, they're a great family, and he's turned out to be a terrific player. I think he has a future in professional basketball. He's going to get an opportunity probably in summer league at least. You could maybe carve something out there, but he's going to have a chance to play overseas. So great dude. But anyway, I was surprised that they didn't get an opportunity. North Carolina gets in. It was funny how they put that in right away too. Like just the first 4, you know what I mean? And it was kind of shocking. Well, and to be fair, their strength of schedule I think was number 1 in the country or whatever, top 5. But they had like 1 quad 1 win, and that's where it was just perplexing. And then you mix in the chair committee. Is the AD there?
Yeah.
And they're like, I left the room when we talked about North Carolina. It's just like, probably did. He's probably not lying, but it's just an eye roll. You know what I mean? Like where people are like, are you serious? But I think them making it all the way to the semis, the ACC tournament helped. And they got that weird lane violation. I felt bad for that kid. But it was just one of those, like, they got in, right away.
Yeah. As soon as they got in, me and my brother who were watching together were like, well, I don't see Boise State getting in now.
Yeah, that's it. It took one of those away. Yeah. It took a West Virginia away, who we lost to, obviously, in the Bahamas. So it was an interesting selection Sunday. But the counter to that argument, I heard it, and it's really, I think it's fair. West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio State, Boise State were all great teams, but they were not like shockingly they got left out, if that makes sense.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying? So like it wasn't a year where you're like, oh my God, somebody literally went, a mid-major team that went like 29-4 and lost at the buzzer. Like it wasn't one of those. It was like, okay, you guys had a solid year. Your metrics are decent, but you got to win some more of those games, blah, blah, blah. So, and that is not taken away from, my disdain for not seeing Coach Rice. And like I said, in the tournament, but it's not a year where you're like, man, those people got absolutely screwed. So I think the tournament committee got it right for the most part. I think the number 1 seeds are correct. I would have had Duke at the number 1 instead of Auburn, but Auburn played in the toughest conference. So that's a here nor there. It's tomato, tomato type of thing. I think Duke with Cooper Flagg has a chance to make a deep run, but I think Auburn's the deepest team and kind of the most motivated team in that regards. And then Houston's terrific, and then Florida's played great basketball. Todd Golden used to be at San Francisco.
Yeah.
So people have listened to the show, heard us talking about San Francisco in the past, and he's done a good job of parlaying that job into a big time, college basketball.
That is really cool. Yeah.
Job. SEC gets 14 teams, which is crazy. And it leads us right into Georgia, who we're going to play, it's funny. If you're
The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
And it leads us right into Georgia, who we're going to play, it's funny. If you're not a casual, but just somebody just, glancing at the stats when you're getting into, okay, who's Gonzaga playing? Georgia was literally below 500 in the in the SEC, and they get a 9 seed. That's how good the league was this year, right? I mean, they're 20, what were they, 20-12, but 8-10 in a conference.
Yep.
So it's one of those you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. Remember, we played, I think it was TCU 2 years ago, and they were 9-9 in the Big 12. And I remember people being like, "Well, this is going to be an easy one." It was like, remember we played them in the second round. I was like, no,
it wasn't. Yeah.
And it's the same. I have the same feeling with the Georgia team. It's going to be an athletic team. It's going to be long bodies. It's going to be a team that kind of plays loose, and you're going to have like a Jekyll and Hyde experience with them. Like if you watch some of their earlier games. They weren't as great, and then they came on, and then they had some, because it's the SEC, you might have 2 bad weeks in a row, but you're still good, and you lose, lose some close ones. Best player is the Asa Newell kid, averaging 15.5, shooting 54%, 30 from 3, almost 7 rebounds, but 6'10". It was interesting nugget. It was between us and Gonzaga last year on commitment, and he chose Georgia at the last second.
Oh, wow.
I think it was a NIL thing. So that's a nice little, nugget going into the game. So at least we're familiar with them. Obviously, we're going to dive into the tape. But this is a really good, defensive team. Home teams to 41% from the field, 31 from 3. They're +4 on the glass, and they're holding teams to under 70 from the scoring defense. So, this is a really good basketball team. If you look at some of their losses, mostly NCAA tournament teams, lost at Auburn, Mississippi State, Texas A&M is good. Oklahoma is good. You know what I'm saying? You just look at some of their Ole Miss is good. Marquette's in. You know what I mean? So, this is a really good basketball team that it's going to be interesting to see how we counteract them. I think interior play is going to be massive for us. Obviously, I say that out almost every single broadcast. If you listen to us again on 590K QNT, you can get it on iHeartRadio. That's all you have to type in. Right? People are like, I can't listen to you. I'm like, yeah, you can. Just download iHeart. It's free, and 590K QNT, and you'll get our broadcast like you're listening to it in Spokane. Anyway, our interior play has to be good, but I can't stress this enough. We can't go 1 for 15 from 3 like we did against St. Mary's. We have to make shots in this tournament to be able to have a chance. It opens up the floor for anything, and that's not like a deep analysis. Anybody listening to this would agree with that, but it's paramount. I think in our wins, we were 36% from 3, and our losses were 21 to 22%. It's right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So shooting the ball from the perimeter is going to be paramount. It opens up the floor for everybody. It allows our guard play to be better, obviously, and then it allows single coverage inside for Braden Huff or Graham EK. Not completely single coverage, but you can't, overhelp and we can't punish guys if we can't spray it out and knock down some shots. So I think, perimeter play is going to be paramount. It's going to be curious to see, how we defend that Newell kid. They got some other good players, but they're kind of a well-balanced scoring. They're the league, second leading scorer, it was the Silas kid at 13.5, and then there's a 9.6, a 9.5, 8.5, 6.8. And these are guys that play, significant minutes, 25, 27, 16, 19. So it's a well-balanced, high, big conference team, right? You know what I mean? Where they're going to have length at every position. They're going to play hard, but you might get some moments where you head scratching a little bit and be like, oh, why were they doing that? And then there's some moments like, oh, I could see why they're, a 9 seed and finished at 20-12 in the toughest league in the country. Like I said, 14 teams from the SEC got in, which is crazy. It's a lot.
It is a lot, but when you look at the teams that got in, like who they're playing, is just like, I watched the highlights of them playing Kentucky, just because like that was a common team that we'd played, and they're going to shoot a lot of threes.
Yeah.
They're very physical. They're big. It's just they're a SEC team.
It's exactly like it's like the scout I can really give is exactly what you just said. It's like it's going to be a long athletic team. You're going to look at them across the way and be like, well, they look better than us just airport, walking through the airport deal. And then it's like they're going to play analytic and shoot a ton of threes, but also like they have a fantastic kid inside, and you just got to kind of guard everybody and expect that any one of their guys can have a good game because they're good players. So I'm just curious to see. Now let's assume that we beat them.
Yeah.
Okay, and we get to the second round. 99.9% repeating. We're going to play Houston. Like we talked about, the third overall seed in this deal. And Houston is a really good basketball team, obviously, and a team that I think is a tough matchup for us in the sense of their overall athletic ability and defensive prowess. Their whole mantra is defense. They've gotten better at shooting the three this year, which just kind of hindered them in the past in past NCAA tournaments. But I think this is their third straight number 1 seed or something like that, or third top 2 seed. So like Kelvin Sampson has that program rolling, obviously, but he gets guys that, I mean, literally like want to punch you in the mouth and D up, and that's what they buy into. And so if we get to play them, it's going to be one of those situations where we can't start our offense at 25, 30 feet. We're going to have to play through contact, and we're going to have to play through uncomfortable situations. Are they unbeatable? Absolutely not. But you have to be able to play with a level head and understand what you're walking into if you play them.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. If we get it, it's going to be a great test for us in this program and our guys. Do we have the ability personnel wise? Absolutely. We just have to be able to be ready for a freight train and a fist fight.
Yeah.
I played for Kelvin one time. Team USA going into my sophomore year, there was a Team USA thing where we were qualifying for, at the lower levels or whatever. They use amateurs, obviously, but it's not the Olympics. But like, I think it was the FIBA under 21s or whatever. So we were qualifying for the next World Cup. So they take groups, you can qualify, and then the next year you can have a completely different team. So I, on the team was Chris Paul, Sean May, myself. There's a lot of, the best college players basically at the time. And if so, it was Kelvin Sampson, Dan Munson, obviously the Gonzaga connection. Tom Crean was one of the other coaches. And I think I was, because it was after my freshman year, so I had a good freshman year, but I wasn't like an all-American, right? And I was one of the younger guys on the team. I averaged, I think, 12 or 11 my freshman year, but I think Fewy made a call and was like, hey, this kid's good enough to try, at least get him in a tryout, which is great. He has that type of pull. And so anyway, I get down to the last 1 or 2 cuts, and we're playing in, I think, Canada, because it was in Halifax. What a great place to have a fucking basketball tournament.
Gosh.
Oh shit. It was like, what? It was weird. Anyway, and I'm going through training camp, and it's tough because it's a competitive deal. I'm kind of the last guy in that, mindset of who they're going to take, you know what I mean? And so we play Team Canada, and it was an exhibition, and so he's playing everybody, Coach Sampson. And I get in towards the end of the third, going into the fourth. So I could tell where I'm at standing wise. I knew that, but where I was standing wise for the team, and I had a good camp. Like I was enough to keep surviving. There's guys already getting cut, so like I was, make it to the last cut, and I go in for a rebound, or I go for an offensive rebound, and I like kind of did it on purpose, but not completely. But like I elbow this guy like straight back in the ribs because I'm kind of pissed I'm not playing, but I'm just trying to make something happen. So I hit this guy elbow, on the side of the ribs. Next play down, he does the same thing kind of to me when I'm turning the box out. So like fair play, man. Like so then a couple plays go by, shot goes up. I come from the weak side and I do the same thing, like hit him straight in like the kidney, like as hard as I can, like straight elbow. And as I'm running down the court, he turns around. I don't see it, and he full on punches me in the face, where like I kind of drop in front of our bench. Refs don't see it because the ball's going the other way. So I'm like kind of stumble real quick and go down to the other end and just kind of run up and like tackle him. Both benches like clear, and everybody's boo, ejected, and everybody's kind of like, what happened? And so I go to the locker room. And I remember sitting there because there was probably like 8 minutes left in the game or something like that. 7, 8 minutes. I'm like, this is going to be an awesome phone call to Coach Few and my dad. Like, why didn't you make the team? Because I was a dumbass and tackled somebody. So I'm sitting there like, well, this is cool. Like, good job, Adam. Like, but also I was kind of like, F that guy.
Yeah.
And we come into the game ends, and Coach Sampson comes to the locker room like first. And he's like, what happened? And I was like, yeah, the guy just punched me in the face. So I tackled him, and he's like, well, why didn't you punch him back? I love that shit. Swear to God. Yeah. He goes, well, you should have punched him back. I love that shit. And he's like, I love that type of toughness. And I ended up making the team, not because of that, but I think it helped a lot.
Yeah.
And so I know a long-winded story. Every time, because Coach Sampson coached in the NBA after that. So when I got to the league, every time he would be an assistant wherever he was at, he'd always come up to me after the start of games. We would always just laugh about it. He's like, remember when you punched that guy? Like, we'd tell the same story. Awesome, dude. I love Coach Sampson.
That's great.
So hopefully I get a chance to just say hi, like real quick, like, hey, Coach. And
Totally.
He's just awesome, dude. He's got Washington State connections here. I think he was at Montana, or anyway, he's got Northwest connections. Awesome, dude. Like, he gets like, I like his style of kid that he gets into. He gets rough around the edges, and he turns them into, good young men, upstanding citizens, but he gets some good athletes in there. And it's like, he has his own style, and he coaches hard. Like, he's a fun guy to play for. You have to play your ass off, but like, he's a player's coach. It's not like a player's coach in the sense that like, he's going to let you do what you want, but he's on your side. And so I hope we play Houston just to say hi to him, because he is a cool dude and he's done an excellent job. But this Houston team is a fantastic team, and obviously defensively for them, we're going to have to be on point offensively and like physically tough. So I'm curious to see how we react to that. Again, this is all, I have to assume that we beat Georgia for the show. And I'm not saying this is like a walkthrough, okay? So
Definitely.
like, if you're listening to this, I'm not saying that we're going to beat Georgia. And if any Georgia fans are listening to this, I don't clip some bullshit like I just said we were going to walk through it, right? Okay, so like, for the essence of the show, we have to do, a look ahead. And so I think it's an okay draw. It's not the best draw, again with the metrics, but also, hey man, we made the NCAA tournament, and you're going to have to play tough teams. We've had weird seeds before and made it out. 9 straight Sweet 16s. Yeah. So it's one of those things, you look at it for 30 minutes and then you say, okay, let's get on the horse and go. And I'm excited for these guys, and, excited for them to have the opportunity, because some of these guys, haven't played in the NCAA tournament, or, haven't had the opportunity to have their role changed in that. And it's the memories you think about for a lifetime, man. I was just on a show earlier. They talked about what was some of your favorite memories of the NCAA tournament. And one of them was like, it's going to the first one, man. Like, just the excitement of it, like when I was a, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed freshman, when we played Valpo in Seattle, I caught a lob dunk. I still remember that play. I've forgotten a shit ton of plays in my career. I've forgotten a lot of games that I was, really good in high school and college, even the NBA. Like, I don't even remember. I remember that play. I remember the feeling of that. I was like, man, I just lob dunked like on a fast break, crowd going nuts in an NCAA tournament game. Like, it's pretty cool.
That's cool.
So, I'm happy for our guys, and it's going to be a great challenge. But again, looking at the net, it was like, I thought we were going to be a 6 or 7, but congrats to St. Mary's as well. We knew they were going to get in almost positive, but that's great for the conference. That's, I don't know how many years in a row. That's two bid league. And so
Yeah.
it's pretty cool in that regard, even though we're leaving the league. So,
I think this one of the stats that often gets forgotten in this, like the Sweet 16 streak, is that Gonzaga hasn't lost in the first round since 2008.
that is crazy.
Like
That is a wild, exactly.
and because my brother was mentioning they've won the first round every year since he was a senior in high school.
It's wild to even think.
And then my kids who were born in 2015 have never they don't know anything different than being in the Sweet 16. And so we're just spoiled as Gonzaga fans.
Yeah.
And like it's not the best draw, but
We're in.
I mean, we're in.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and that's a great point bringing that up, because you have to put things into context, and we talked about it, a little bit all season, and then the last episode, like put into context some of our losses, right? Like what happened in what situations, and if we win those games, then the whole tenor of the talk is way different, even though it's like 1 or 2 plays, and so Georgia's going to be a tough. Out, but that is a wild stat. It's always crazy when people say too, Gonzaga doesn't win in March, and it's like we've won we've been to 9 straight Sweet 16s, and we've been to 2 Final Four championship games, and I don't know how many Elite 8. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's not like we're first round getting bounced like you said. So
Right.
I'm excited. Let's look a little at some of the other side. Some of our friends, Arizona, I thought got a decent draw going to Seattle. Playing an Akron team, obviously, I don't know anything about Akron, but I think Arizona is going to win that game. I find it funny though that they're most likely going to play Oregon in the second round.
That is funny.
I think it's a pro for Arizona because there's just familiarity with each other. So it's kind of like, okay, at least our scout in the second round theoretically won't be that hard, but like we know kind of what they do and their tendencies. And so I thought that was kind of cool. An old Pac-12, matchup right away, potentially, but they get Arizona or they get Duke in the Sweet 16 if they win both those games, assuming Duke does win through. So that'd be a made for TV matchup, Arizona Duke. You know what I mean? Some good matchups. And then BYU got a higher seed than expected. I thought they're going to be a 7, but again, they're in the Big 12. That's a great conference. With a 6 seed, Montana. That's cool. That guy's done a terrific job there. I can't remember his name, but he's done a terrific job. They get in, obviously winning the automatic berth, but they're most likely going to play BYU, but Wisconsin will probably beat them. But what I was looking at was St. Mary's plays Vanderbilt, and that'll be a fun one. But then if you go Alabama versus St. Mary's in the second round, like Alabama's complete analytic, we're going to shoot it 35 to 40 times from 3, and we already know what St. Mary's is. So I'm hoping they both win their first round games to watch that second round game.
Definitely.
To see how St. Mary's is like, okay, you think we're fast and you think we like to shoot a lot, like have fun with Alabama. And then also Alabama, like, hey man, if you miss a few early, you're going to be like, how come we're not getting the ball back on the other side? It's like, well, because they shoved you in the back and they got an extra rebound and they're going to run 20 more seconds off that clock. Absolutely. So are you ready to go through 8 ball screens per possession? You better be. So, I thought, again, the tournament, I think, was seeded pretty fairly, right? I don't think there was any like screw jobs. Like I said, I thought all the number ones made sense. A crazy one, in my opinion, is Florida might play UConn in the second round.
That is, yeah.
That's another matchup where if you're Florida, you're like, okay, I know UConn isn't, they beat us obviously, and they're 2-time defending national champions. They're not what they were in the last 2 years, but it's also like we have to play this team in the second round. Like, holy crap! And so that'll be an interesting one. I think St. John's is a cool story out, with Rick Pitino going 30-4 and winning the Big East since I think it was 2000. I saw. The Big East tournament.
Oh, Big East tournament.
Big East tournament. The Big East regular season, I think, was 85.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is crazy. So I think the Big East tournament was 2000, but 20 plus years regardless.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the tournament looks pretty solid. Like, and I'm not a deep dive. I know more than most people, but also like if I just go, quick elevator glance at it, it's like I think everything was pretty, set up the right way. And like I said, the first 4 teams out were good, but it wasn't like, holy shit, 31-3 and you lost in your championship game and you had a net of 50, but you're at a mid-major. Like that team should, most people are like, that team should get in. And, his team is like, well, right. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So it should be fun, but it's the best time of the year, man.
It really is.
The first Thursday, like obviously when we're playing, and then obviously the next day is following it. But it's just so cool, and everybody like has a rooting interest, and then obviously rooting for the underdogs and all that stuff. And it's funny, underdogs in the first, second rounds, and everybody says they want an underdog all the way, but the ratings never show that. It's
right.
Like you want underdogs first 2, then everybody wants chalk after that. They want the big name, big matchups. So I'm curious to see, how that plays out. I think, if you're going to ask me who I think could like win it besides us, and I know it's such a weird thing to do, but like, I think Duke has the best chance as far as like if Cooper Flag's healthy.
Yeah.
But I think all the number 1s are really terrific, and the number 2s. And I know that sounds lame, like pretty simple, but it also is kind of like a wide open, not completely wide open, but a college basketball is gonna be like this probably for a long time. There's no team that's been there for 3.5, 4 years together that's like, the old Duke teams.
Right, yeah, that's true.
Kentucky teams, that are just like, this team's getting to the Elite 8 at least, and then the tournament starts, right?
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the best, benefits to Gonzaga is like, they can win any weekend.
Yes.
And I know that's like an overused saying, but they can do it. And
I honestly, like, we're playing our best basketball at the end of the season. That's another cliche, but it's true.
Yep.
We were in playoff mode to start, that last week of conference play. So I think that helped. And I think just the overall talent level that we have has the ability to go on a legitimate run. So like if we do play a Houston, obviously we got to get through Georgia first, and we're not overlooking them, but just for show sake, is if we make a lot of threes and get, in a situation where we're rolling offensively, we can beat anybody in the country. We're number 1 in offensive efficiency. So it's not like we're, a team that can't string some together. Like I said, I don't think we should be on the 8-9 line, but I get it. You know what I mean? So if you're Houston on the other side, shit, we might have to play Gonzaga. Like, damn, that's a crazy second round game too. Like I just talked about with Florida, UConn, right? They're like, thanks a lot, tournament and committee. You know what I mean? So it could go both ways. But again, congrats to our guys. It's an awesome thing. It's an awesome experience. Hopefully they enjoy it. But I'm excited to go to obviously Wichita and call the games, and hopefully we're reporting back one more show of on to the Sweet 16. What a great upset and all those things coming up. But, we'll see how our guys play that first game, because that first game's going to be tough. Like I said, you play these big top conference teams, and people I don't think understand the bodies look different. I know that sounds funny, but there's just more length always. There's more athleticism. You look at some of these teams at the end of the bench, not that we're not tall and long, but like just pound for pound. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You just look over and you're like, oh, that's a Power 5 football school.
Definitely.
That makes sense. You know what I mean? And it happens all the time. And we beat those teams. But like when we played Memphis and we played the TCUs, and you look over and you're like, oh, that weight program is pretty good. I'm sure they pump a lot of iron because it looks like it. You know what I mean? So it's going to look like that against Georgia. It's going to be like, okay, we got to be ready to go. But this is a Power 5 team. Yeah, I would encourage any Gonzaga fan, go watch the highlights of the Houston game and the Big 12 championship. They're just big, and they shoot, and the
they're physical, like you said, they're a physical team, and I think it does give you some perspective, like what you're going into, because to not kind of educate yourself about who you're playing. You'll just kind of be like, we should win this game because we always win in the first round. But like, look at our matchups because there's no easy game in the NCAA tournament.
No, there is if you're a one seed. But yeah, no, you're right. I know that's a little okay. Don't you know? But I get exactly what you're saying. So, do we got any listener questions?
Yeah, I mean, they all have a lot.
The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
So, do we got any listener questions?
Yeah, I mean, they all have a lot to do with what do we need to do to beat Houston. I think we've kind of talked a lot about that. You know, Can Hastat said, "Do you see Coach Few tightening the rotation going into the tournament?"
Yes, I think it's. I think that it was on the table with. The conference tournament too, because we weren't for sure in. Obviously, we felt good about it, but I think yes. I mean, it's such a cliche, but it's so true. Is everything's on the table?
Yeah.
So I think you go with personnel matchups, and then you go with who's rolling. And if that's not your number that night, you can't really bitch, especially if you win. And I think there's certain personnel guys that are probably a little bit more ready to go in the intensity of an NCAA tournament game because it is more intense, like noticeably. That's one thing my freshman year I've noticed the first sequence I got in, I was like, oh, I'm kind of out of breath because I'm playing really as hard as I can and everybody else is. You know what I'm saying? Like every single possession is different. So, yeah, I think you shorten it up to 7-8 and whatever that may be. But you can't really worry about hurt feelings and parents and agents and all that stuff. So yeah, he's going to shorten it up.
How like getting into the tournament and like staying out of foul trouble, like how hard is that to try to manage as a player?
It's a great point because you definitely are more intensified on just flying around, but then you have to control your emotions and then you have to control your adrenaline. I know that sounds funny too, but you don't have an adrenaline dump and then whatever happens after that, the little lull.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to be able to control your physicality and your emotions and all those things. So yeah, like I made it a point, and my role was different, especially my junior year. I had to be on the floor to score. But I was like, I'm not going to touch anybody for the first 10 minutes. That doesn't mean I'm just going to Olay, but I'm literally not going to swipe down and don't pick up a cheap one because it happens all the time. Guy picks up one cheap one early. It's, oh, my bad. And then a legitimate foul comes. He's got two. You know what I'm saying? So you have to police yourself on, okay, there's a ball at 80 feet that I might be able to go get. I'm not going to reach for it just because it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
Or there's a rotation where I could maybe slide over and get a charge. No,
not worth getting a block.
Yeah,
right?
But my point is, like, it depends on what your role is on the team. That matters too. Now, if you're a 20-minute a game guy and you're averaging whatever, and you're a defensive guy or whatever, absolutely. And if you're playing 10 deep, but like my role was different. It just was.
Yeah.
Derek Ravio, same way. He had to be on the floor. You know what I mean? Ronnie Turioff had to be on the floor. He couldn't foul. You know what I'm saying? It's not just me, but like it does matter. To kind of save those fouls. And so when people are listening to this, like, I'm not saying like you don't play hard, but you got to be like, okay, I gotta be on the floor. Right. And save them for the second half. Then, if you only have one, then obviously you can let it rip in the second half.
Yeah. I have a question from Ness Danny. I think they asked a question earlier in the year, but this comes kind of saying like, how do you stay focused on the next game and block out all this external noise? Like, especially like going this Monday through Wednesday, like, are you just in the gym a lot? What are players doing?
So you work out, you do a lot of scouting, So a lot of it will be modified. You'll have practice, but you're probably not going to go live. Or if you go live, it's going to be like, you're going to pull the scout team guys aside and be like, if you step on anybody's ankle or like swipe down on somebody's thumb, you're like, we'll take your scholarship or throw you out of school. You know what I mean? Like literally. So you'll go like semi-live just to keep your cardio. You'll do a lot of non-contact stuff to keep your cardio, but it's a lot of film and a lot of scouting and prep. That's what it is. And then as a player, you just have to, clear your mind and be ready to go. I was always excited for it. I never was, I never should say not nervous. That's not true. I've never had anxiety leading up to it to where I didn't feel like I could perform, but you are nervous a little bit. But also like, I think it's one of those situations where you just kind of just let it rip and have fun with it. And if you can figure out that balance of the anxiety and and then compared to having fun and letting it rip, then you're gonna have a good tournament. Yeah. But also, what's beauty about college basketball, I think why it's so popular, is obviously it's about the team. Like nobody gives a shit. Like literally, if you have a bad game and you advance, like you're just the joy of that. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the pros where like you didn't win a playoff series, so you're not going to get a big contract, or this is going to haunt your legacy forever. Usually it's like, hey man, we got to the second round, third round, Sweet 16. Like that's all that matters because it's one and done. So I think it's for players. It's like, hey man, like you just play literally as hard as you can ever play in your entire life, and that's it, man. And I know it's not a crazy take because everybody kind of says the same thing. When you play in those games, it's super fun because it's the winner go home. Yeah, So.
Do you think the expectations of Gonzaga is?
That's a good point.
Like, what are the expectations? They're different.
Right. They're different. You're right. When I played, they were still there because obviously the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16 runs were before. So that's a fair point. But yeah, I mean that's really interesting to think about because we have the 9 straight Sweet 16s. We had the 26, straight tournaments or whatever, 26, 27. So that had to be weighing a little bit on players' minds going into this last week and Vegas weekend or Vegas tournament. So yeah, that's a really good point. I can't really speak to it because I never had to deal with it, but yeah, it's a real situation. But I would counter it with this crew. It's like, hey man, you're an 8 seed, like you have nothing to lose. And that's what I bet you Fewey's saying. And he's probably saying at the start, hey man, at the start of the year, you guys were top 10 and we had a lot of bad luck in a lot of situations. Like you guys are really still really good. This is a really good personnel team. This is a really good basketball team. You guys are terrific. That's what I'd be saying to him. And I bet you that message is getting through. Like, guys, we were built for a run. Yeah. Right. Personnel wise. So it doesn't matter what our seed is anymore. We're going to have to beat somebody good, but also like you should be, welcoming this pressure and anxiety with open arms. Yeah. And there is no expectations because of where your seed line is. So if it doesn't work out, it's not like you guys were a 2 and lost in the second. I lost as a 2 in the second round when I was a freshman. So you know what I mean? So
yeah, freshman and sophomore, right?
Not my sophomore.
Oh, not your sophomore.
No,
okay.
No, not in the second round. So yeah, it's interesting when you get to no, first round we lost in the first or second round, yeah. So yeah, it gets to where you have to just understand what's presented in front of you, but don't look at don't be the last team that doesn't make the Sweet 16. That's like a weird record. That's not like a a hard one. So
yeah, I think the biggest record is obviously we want to make the tournament every season, and that's going to change considerably when we go to the Pac-12. We haven't really talked to any about the players at all, obviously, just because this is very much a team thing. But like, obviously, we have our main role players of EK and Nimhard. But who do you think is the biggest X factor in this tournament?
I think it's not just players; it's 3-point shooting. I think just perimeter shooting in general has to be good. Like I mentioned, 35, 36, 37%, somewhere in that range on our wins, and 21, 22% on our losses. Yeah, it tells you right there. Right. Yeah. Now the counter to that is, well, we just beat St. Mary's and went 1 for 15. That's an anomaly.
It's a fluke. Yeah,
it's a fluke, and it doesn't mean we have to go lights out. But like to play a Houston and a Georgia who's good defensively, I said they're holding the teams at 41%, 30 from three. You're going to have to make perimeter shots because it's no secret. We throw the ball a lot inside to our two great post players. So if you can't punish double teams and over helping in the lane and things like that with, spray out threes, it makes it really difficult. Yeah. So I think just in general, our perimeter shooting, Nolan Hickman, Nemhard, Caleb Battle, who's had a great stretch. Yeah. Inocente a little bit too. I think Braden Huff needs to make some pick and pops. He hit the only three in the fucking game. Yeah.
That's
both
true,
teams in Vegas. But I think that has to be. And then Dusty Stromer too, if he gets an opportunity, he's got to be able to knock down and stretch the floor and make threes. So I think not just one player, it's perimeter shooting. It has to be on. And obviously I could go basic. We got to win the glass. Of course we do. But if we don't make shots, you don't have a fucking prayer. I don't care who you are. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we're not built like a team that, like those old Kentucky teams that can just like suffocate you defensively. We're good defensively, but if we can't make perimeter shots, it makes it really difficult.
Yeah, and if you look, historically, if you look at teams that we've lost to in the first round, it's always because we've let Stephen Curry go off on threes or Jimmer Fredette. But I do think like it will be fun. I will say the time for Spokanites 1:35 is gonna be making some excuses.
Yeah, no. If you're a employee or employer, like let people watch the game. Like who cares? Or this is the hard one. Like you mute all your notifications and then go home and watch it. But that's
that's tough.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But like it's possible. We've all done it in certain sport events, but this one's so like, so you almost have to like blindfold yourself and then like, let's take an Uber home and like, what's that movie, Bird Box or whatever?
Where you just try to not find out.
Just not find out. And then like, you have to tell all your friends like, hey, that group chat, like, don't say anything for 4 hours until I get home from work. But it's going to be exciting. Thank you to Idaho Central Credit Union for that. The listener questions. We're still doing the gift cards, correct?
Yep.
So we'll send those out.
I will say, if I have named you in a episode and I have not reached out to you, and please send me a message on Instagram.
Send the message of what episode you were on and around the time, because we don't want people scamming.
Right. No. And okay. I'll go back and check because I need to do that.
Yes, but like, hey, episode 22, I was such and such, and then we'll check it real quick.
Yeah, definitely. And I was going to say the little fact that just came in the final standings of before the tournament. Gonzaga is ranked 24th on the AP poll and then 23rd in the coaches poll for what it's worth.
Back in the top 25 as rightfully so. So again, hopefully we're coming back with another episode of another Sweet 16. If not, we're going to probably do an end of the year recap, and then we're going to get some interviews going to round off the year for some of the guys. But again, appreciate you listening. Thank you to our sponsors, McGillivray Environmental, Idaho Central Credit Union, M4 CPA. Thank you for listening.
Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First thing I'ma drink is a Rainier beer. I ain't no lush, shut up, hush. This is how I zone out. I'ma take this check, put it on me. I'm a much better boss than an employee. Just cause you got time, don't waste time. It's about time, feel the sunshine. You got time, but don't waste time. It's go time. Employee, I'm an employee cause I go OD on a BEAT. I'm a young OG, been killing these.
The podcast intro song is Get Up by Jinx Universe. Listen to his music on Spotify and follow him on social media at I am Jinx Universe. Produced locally in Spokane, Washington at Spocast.